Hi friends, it's Peggy from prettypapercards.com. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, and today I'm going to show you a quick technique to brighten up your dry embossed pieces that you've run through the embossing folder. And this is a sample. We're going to make a card very similar to this today. And what I've done is I've embossed this white piece and then I've colored it with ink. And I'm going to show you how to do that today. So I want to show you a couple of kind of the way it turns out. So this is the folder I'm using today. This is the Painted Texture 3D embossing folder by Stampin' Up! And it really is neat. It's the texture that's kind of like what they put on your walls sometimes. And I'm going to show you, this is how it looks once you've run a piece of paper through the embossing folder. And the back and the front are different. I don't think anyone really knows which is the front and which is the back, but they're both fabulous and you can use them interchangeably, so I just don't worry about it. Now today we're also using the Stampin' Up! In colors for 2021-23, and we're going to use a couple of them. I'll bring this up closer so you can see it. These are the 5 new in colors: Polished Pink, Evening Evergreen, Fresh Freesia, Soft Succulent, and Pale Papaya. And we're going to go with the Papaya and the Evergreen today. I think they make a beautiful combination, a beautiful blend together. I'm going to show you a couple of other cards I've made that are similar, that use the similar technique. This one uses the Polished Pink, and it's a bit of a darker. I'll show you how we can get a darker and a lighter look on our embossed pieces. Here is a piece that I did with the Pale Papaya. First I ran it through the embossing machine, and then I'll show you how we get the color on. This one I did light, and this one I did heavy. And you can do either one depending on the look you want. For example, this card would be heavy, and this card would be light. So you can do it to your own heart's content. Here's a piece where I used the Fresh Freesia. This is kind of in between light and heavy. And this is this side I used Soft Succulent, but it came out very heavy and I didn't like that. So, okay, the stamp set we're going to use today is called To a Wild Rose. It's actually retiring on May 3rd, 2021, and I'm doing this video in April, so I want to encourage you, if you like this stamp set, to get it. It's one of my favorites. So let's start out with our card. We're going to start with the card base. 8.5 by 5.5, scored at 4 1/4. And let me get my bone folder here. And then we're going to put on a piece of the Pale Papaya cardstock, and it is cut just a 1/4 inch in from the front of the card. So this piece is 4 inches by 5 1/4. And I'm going to use just a light bit of my multi-purpose glue to adhere this. And this is going to pretty much frame our textured piece, our piece from the embossing folder. I'm going to see if I can move that up just a bit. Okay, so here is our piece which we're going to emboss, and it is 3 3/4 by 5. And we're going to run it through the Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine in the Painted Texture 3D embossing folder. And I'm going to bring the machine up here. Let me just get this. I guess it doesn't matter if it's totally straight, right? So I'm going to bring up the machine, the Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine. Now, when we're embossing, we want to be sure to use the base plate, which is number 1, and number 4, the embossing plate. You see the numbers right up here. And we put our embossing folder right in there, and the paper's inside, and then we just run it through. And the plates are numbered so that you get the right, what they call sandwich every time. You know what plates to use for what you're doing. So let's see now how that came out. Let's get it out of there. Very nice, just like we wanted. Okay, now we're going to see how we do this. We're going to take our Pale Papaya stamp pad. And again, this will be available on May 4th, 2021 to customers. It's a beautiful color. The ink is maybe a little darker than the paper. And so what we're going to do is, again, we can choose either side. I'm going to give it a very, very light touch, and I'm just going to do this, just barely. Look at that. Just the lightest touch you've ever seen, and that's all you need. Now, we're going to do the back side heavy just to show you how it turns out, but I'm not going to use the back side. So if you press down harder, this is the look you can get. And people don't really necessarily know that you're using an ink pad, so all of that, once you put things on top of it, won't really be seen. But I personally, for this occasion, for this card, I prefer the light look. And that's all you do. Is that not easy? So easy. All right, so now we're ready to adhere this to the front of our card. And we're just going to cover up that darkness, the more bold side. And we're going to glue this. Again, it's another 1/4 inch in from the Pale Papaya piece. And just as a contrast, on this card, I used the heavier, I pressed down harder with the ink pad, and that's why that came out so dark. But I like it. It looks good. So either side will work depending upon your style or the style of the card you're using that particular day. So now what we're going to do is we're going to put 2 strips of cardstock right across the center. They're 4.5. This one's 4.5 by 1, and this is 4.5. Excuse me, 4.25 by 1, 4.25 by 1.25. And what we'll do is just layer them like that. But first I'm going to stamp this. And I'm going to use the Evening Evergreen because it's so pretty. And we're going to use, like I did on the other card from the same stamp set, the word blessed. It's a photopolymer set, so I'm going to get out my Stampin' Pierce mat so that I have extra padding under there and my stamp will really give a good impression. Okay, so I'm inking my stamp, and then I'm going to put it right in the center of my paper. Isn't that pretty? This green, I want to show you how beautiful it looks here. Look at that. Isn't that so pretty with the papaya, the Evening Evergreen? And then just to give a little more design or something, we're going to stamp some leaves from this stamp set. And the To a Wild Rose stamp set is a distinctive stamp set, which means that it has wonderful variations in, it gives wonderful variations in the ink. And they are beautiful stamps. So for this one, I'm not going to use the pad. I'm going to pull back out the Pale Papaya ink. And we're just going to ink this leaf, which is a beautiful, beautiful leaf. And we're just going to put it on each side of the word blessed. It's very faint, but I think it's a nice, on the other card, the sample card, I used the Evening Evergreen for the leaves, but this time I wanted to do it lightly. So that just gives it a little bit more interest there. And we're going to glue these 2 pieces together. So that papaya is framing the word. It really shows off the beauty of these new colors, doesn't it? And then we'll raise this up on Stampin' Dimensionals. Let me close my ink pad because I don't want them to dry out. If you leave them uncovered too long, they could dry out. So I'm going to put 3 Stampin' Dimensionals on the back to adhere this piece, and then we're going to put on some beautiful in-color jewels just to give a little bling. So we'll put this right across the center here. And it was cut to fit perfectly, and it does. And then we're going to use these in-color jewels. And for the sample card I showed you, I used the pale papaya jewels, but I think for this one, I'm going to use the contrast of the evening evergreen. I thought it would look really nice. Look how pretty that looks. Wow, I love it. I love it. I'll just put one up here. And you know, usually you put an odd number. For some reason, the eye just likes the look of the odd number, so that's kind of a little rule. And let's see. There we go. There are 5 of them. And then there we go. There's our card. Let me take away this pad so you can see the card all by itself. Isn't that beautiful? I think it's really pretty. And I like this technique. You can use it a lot, anytime you like, with any embossing folder. It's a fun technique, the inked embossing folder technique. And so thank you so much for stopping by today. I hope that you'll subscribe to my YouTube channel. And if you'd like to purchase any of the items used in today's card, I have them all listed with the links down below. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.